There are shows that get canceled, there are shows that quietly fade out, and then there's the one where the entire cast phoned in sick in the same week to break a television network. 210 episodes, 9 seasons on CBS, top 10 in the ratings for 6 straight years, and a finale that pulled 32.94 million people on a Monday night in May. 15 Emmys out of 69 nominations, and the credit for hauling CBS out of the worst slump in its history. And underneath all of that, the creator quit his own show before a single episode aired. The man playing the dad had a heart attack on the set, then sat on news that was much worse. And in September 2003, one number leaked into the newspapers and turned the Barone family against the people paying them. This is the rise, the misery the writers manufactured on purpose, and the mutiny that hit while the show was still number one. This is Everybody Loves Raymond. Let's go all the way back to 1995. Stand-up comics were the safest bet in television. Roseanne. Home Improvement. A comic with a decent 5 minutes and a family act could walk into a network and walk out with a development deal. So in the middle of 1995, a comedian from Queens named Ray Romano did 5 minutes on Late Show with David Letterman. Letterman's executive producer, Rob Burnett, later said that by the end of the monologue, they already had lawyers lined up to make a deal. Romano needed somebody to actually write the thing. Around a dozen candidates came through before he landed on Phil Rosenthal, a writer on Coach who got noticed by sending a Frasier spec script to Letterman's company. The two of them met at a deli on Ventura Boulevard and talked about nothing but their families. Romano's pitch was a show about a comedian hanging out with friends in a coffee shop, talking about life. Rosenthal told him that show already existed. It was called Seinfeld, and it was the biggest thing on television, so they went the other way. Ray plays a version of himself. His parents live across the street. His brother is a cop who resents him. That was the whole pitch, and Rosenthal kept it that short in the room with CBS president Les Moonves. CBS was lukewarm on it. It was also cheap, so they made it. Even the title came out of a real grudge. Romano won a stand-up award, and his brother Richard, an actual New York cop, said something like, "I had a day where people were shooting at me, and you're bringing home trophies. Everybody loves Raymond, don't they?" Letterman's entire involvement was one meeting where he signed Rosenthal's contract and said, "Just don't embarrass us." Then Rosenthal nearly torched the whole thing himself. CBS wanted somebody hotter to play Ray's wife. That's Rosenthal's own word for it years later. He met the actress the network was pushing, talked her into reading a few lines, and by his account, she was 10 times worse for the part than he'd feared. He walked into the casting meeting with 3 names, knowing Moonves would ask for the network's pick, and that if he said no, he'd be unemployed by lunchtime. He said no anyway. He hadn't even met Patricia Heaton yet. He kept his job on that one. But then his own agent rang and asked who he wanted to run the show, and when Rosenthal said me, the agent pointed out that he'd never run a show in his life. CBS offered to pair him with a veteran instead. Rosenthal quit. His words, "It wasn't because I was brave, I was terrified because I just quit the thing I loved." 3 days later, the agent called back. He was the showrunner, sole and only. Moonves liked how he'd handled the casting fight. So the biggest sitcom of the 2000s was built by a first-timer who resigned twice before the pilot. The rest of the casting was just as accidental. Romano had barely acted, so the casting director had to work around Screen Actors Guild rules to get him in, and he needed coaching to seem like somebody an audience would root for. Peter Boyle got lost on the way to his audition, arrived furious about it, and Rosenthal later admitted he cast him out of fear. Doris Roberts came in after the team had looked at more than 100 actresses, did zero preparation, which was not how she worked, and played the whole audition on instinct. CBS wanted Ray's brother to be a short, snarling Danny DeVito type. What they got was Brad Garrett, who is 6'8", playing a man who has already given up on himself. Garrett wrote later that when he first met Romano, he promptly felt they were doomed. Romano didn't look like a lead to him. He looked, in Garrett's words, like the teenager you'd see at Whole Foods spraying down the produce. Then CBS put the show on Friday nights at 8:30 and did their best to kill it. Friday was where networks sent shows to die. Season 1 got lovely reviews and almost nobody watched. It finished 25th out of the 30 shows CBS aired that year. Writer Steve Scroven pitched a Halloween episode and the network turned it down. What was the point of a holiday episode on a night nobody was home? That script sat in a drawer for 2 years. Then, in March 1997, Moonves moved it to Monday. The average rating doubled. And here's the mechanism that turned it into a giant, and it has almost nothing to do with quality. In the 1997 to 98 season, CBS canceled every show it aired on Mondays between 9 and 11 p.m. The network was left holding 2 comedies and a 2-hour hole in its best night. So the sitcom that had been a Friday afterthought 18 months earlier got promoted to the 9 p.m. anchor slot. That's not a network discovering a hit. That's a network running out of options. From there, the numbers get silly. In December 1998, CBS's distribution arm sold the reruns to WPIX in New York and KTLA in Los Angeles. Variety reported the license fee at $90,000 to $100,000 a week plus 90 seconds of advertising time. 5 weeks later, TBS bought 4 years of it. By the 2000 to 2001 season, Everybody Loves Raymond was tying Friends and Monday Night Football. From season 6, Patricia Heaton was on $250,000 an episode. The Emmys eventually came to 15. 4 for Doris Roberts, 3 for Brad Garrett, 2 for Heaton, 1 for Romano, 0 for Peter Boyle out of 7 nominations. Hold on to that. Now, the part nobody tells you about this show. Every Monday morning, Rosenthal opened the writer's room by asking the staff what had happened with their families over the weekend. He'd taken that from Carl Reiner on the Dick Van Dyke Show. Whatever came out of that conversation became the next episode, the fight about the dishwasher, the in-laws, the suitcase left sitting on the stairs. Real ones. And it got more deliberate. Rosenthal has said the arrangement was that everybody went home early, home for dinner every night, all the writers, and the homework was this: go home. Get in a fight with your wife. So we've got a show for tomorrow. Read that again. The assignment was to go and start a fight in your own house so you had something to sell to CBS on Monday morning. The room itself was total confession. Rosenthal told the Television Academy that they said anything and everything, no holds barred, that they knew things about each other their wives didn't know, and that you should probably have to sign something before walking in. He also said you need to be in that room more than your own home. Welcome to your family, for good or bad. It worked. 90% of the writers stayed all 9 years. And it's the reason that the show still plays now, while a lot of 90s sitcoms feel like they're performing at you. When Deborah loses it about the suitcase, somebody's actual marriage paid for that scene. But you can only mind that scene for so long. In 1999, right in the middle of the show's climb, Peter Boyle had a heart attack on the set. He was 63. 9 years before that, he'd had a stroke and lost his speech for 6 months. He came back from the heart attack and carried on playing Frank Barone, bellowing "holy crap" at a live studio audience every Friday night. And then, according to Doris Roberts, he told her he had cancer of the bones. 3 years before he died, he asked her whether he should tell them. She told him no. Her reasoning, given to the LA Times long afterwards: they'll treat you like a dying man, and you don't need that. You need for them to write for you. That's Roberts' account and hers alone, so take it as that. But if it's right, the actor who never won an Emmy for this show sat in a writer's room built on total honesty and kept the biggest thing in his life out of it. If you watched this one back in the day, give the video a like and subscribe if you want more retro TV deep dives. Because in September 2003, the family fell apart over money. Ray Romano signed a 1-year deal for the 8th season worth $40 million. That's $1.8 million an episode, and it made him the highest paid actor on television. Not the highest paid sitcom actor, the highest paid, full stop. And the deal did something else that mattered more than the salary. It cut him into royalties from the syndicated reruns of the older episodes, the ones already printing money on TBS and on local stations in nearly every market in America. That's the piece worth understanding, because a hit sitcom doesn't make its fortune from the network. It makes it in syndication, more or less forever, and the people holding a slice of the back end are the ones who get rich. Romano had a slice. The 4 people playing his family did not. Then the number hit the newspapers. Romano knew immediately what that meant. His line to the New York Daily News: "It was inevitable. When my salary came out in the papers, I knew stuff would happen." Brad Garrett was on somewhere between $150,000 and $160,000 an episode. Good money by any normal standard, about 1/11th of what the man standing next to him was making on a show where Garrett had 3 Emmys and Romano had 1. So he didn't show up. Garrett refused to come to work until CBS renegotiated. No statement, no lawyer's letter. He just wasn't there. So the producers wrote Robert Barone out of the season premiere and shot around him. Then they made the threat: keep this up and Robert is gone permanently. Written out. 9 years, 3 Emmys, erased. And this is where it stops being a salary dispute. The following week, Patricia Heaton called in sick, then Peter Boyle, then Doris Roberts. The entire supporting cast of the #1 comedy in America was suddenly unwell all at once. In the same week, their co-star was threatened with deletion. It works because a network can replace a writer or move a time slot. It cannot shoot a family sitcom about a man whose parents live across the street when the parents, the wife, and the brother are all at home sick. No cast, no show, just a standing set, an audience booked in, and a Monday night at 9 to fill. CBS entered negotiations that week. The resolution tells you what the fight was about. CBS and the other profit participants, Romano included, gave up a portion of their own back-end shares to sweeten the deals for the 4 of them. Heaton, Boyle, and Roberts took the profit-sharing offer and came back in time to film the premiere. Without Garrett, he held on for his own separate deal and stayed out more than 2 weeks before he got it. Nobody made it about Ray personally. Garrett's representative put out a line that's almost polite. Ray deserves every penny. All Brad wants is compensation in line with what actors in his position are making. Strip the politeness off and look at what happened. A show about a family that cannot stop resenting each other over who gets the attention and who gets left out ended in a 2-week standoff over who got the attention and who got left out. The writers didn't have to invent that one. They were living inside it. They ended it themselves, which almost nobody does. Back in January 2001, Rosenthal had said season 7 would be the last because he'd never seen a show get better after 7 years. They went 2 more anyway, and the 9th ran 16 episodes instead of 23. Season 9, he said later, was when they officially ran out of ideas. The finale aired May 16, 2005. Nearly 33 million people watched. Romano's back-end deal was the most valuable thing anybody signed. Forbes and Vanity Fair have both reported him earning up to $18 million a year in residuals from a show that stopped filming in 2005. He made Men of a Certain Age turned up in The Irishman and directed his own film about Queens. Heaton walked straight into another 9-season family sitcom, The Middle. Garrett did Neil Simon on Broadway, opened a comedy club at the MGM Grand, and if you've got kids, you know him as the chef in Ratatouille. Rosenthal turned his food obsession into Somebody Feed Phil. Doris Roberts died in her sleep in April 2016 at 90. Sawyer Sweeten, one of the twins, died in 2015 at 19. And Peter Boyle died on December 12, 2006, 18 months after the finale of multiple myeloma and heart disease. He was 71 and he never did win that Emmy. Romano now hosts a yearly gala for the Myeloma Research Fund that carries Boyle's name. Last November, CBS put the survivors back on a rebuilt version of that living room set for a 30th anniversary special. 6.32 million people turned up 2 decades on. Romano and Rosenthal ruled out a reboot, and they were straightforward about why. Too many of them are gone. 9 seasons of a family fighting over everything except the one thing they actually wanted. And then 1 week in 2003 when all of them called in sick at once and got it. If you enjoyed this deep dive, give the video a like and subscribe for more retro TV deep dives. Thanks for watching.